Sonny Dykes lands 3 explosive playmakers for his 2026 class over the weekend.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's right, Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. I've been covering TCU athletics for the past 12 years. We're brought to you today by FanDuel. Thanks for making Locked On Horned Frogs your first listen. I'll tell you more about FanDuel and how you can get $200 in bonus bets later on in the show. We'll also discuss how TCU recruiting right now is on fire. Honestly, that's going to be the majority of the show is recruiting talk because I went on vacation starting on Friday afternoon. I thought I'd be real slick, recorded something on Thursday, posted it on Friday morning, took the family on vacation, got back on Sunday evening, and TCU had landed like 500 players. Not really, but 3 big-time players. I'm going to talk about all of them here in segment 1 and then into segment 2. But the first commitment that I want to discuss, wide receiver from Oak Ridge High School, James Scott, 6'4", 215 pounds. Here's what you need to know about James Scott. When you turn on the highlight tape, 50-50 balls, he's going to go get them. He uses that size to his advantage. There were so many plays near the goal line fade. I'm bigger than you. I'm going to go up and catch the ball. Near the sideline, just, hey, get an outside release, run towards the sideline. I'll throw it up. Go get it. And he also had some plays on post patterns, screen passes. He's really good after the catch. He reminds me a little bit of Quentin Johnston in that he's just so big. And Savion Williams had this ability too. But it wasn't so much the shiftiness and the speed, even though those guys had those things. But the size and the frame, he catches the ball in those little screen passes or those out routes, curl routes. And it's just really difficult for those defenders that are making first contact to bring him down. Very good at catching the ball in the comeback and just spinning right out of the tackle, using that size to his advantage. So I like this pickup a lot. He fits in the mold of what TCU has done the last few years at the outside wide receiver spot. Eric McAllister, the next player to step into that role, where the ability to win one-on-one matchups with their size, with their athleticism, is just a huge benefit. He showed some physicality at times. He's such a big presence on the field that you would see, like on run plays, corners would be on their heels a little bit because they didn't want him to run past him, right? And he would just shove him to the ground on the block. He did a nice job in some quarterback draws, some design runs, getting in front of guys and using his body just to push people out of the frame. But the big key here is, again, that ability to go up and get those 50-50 balls, which is something that TCU has done a really good job of through the years, producing talent like that. The offer list for James Scott is impressive. He's down in Conroe in the Houston area, Houston, Arizona State, Arkansas, Florida State. He also runs track, does a nice job there. He'll be going into a senior year where I'm sure he'll have another productive season. But this, along with, all the great slot wide receivers that TCU has had through the years that are more shifty playmakers, get the ball in their hands and go. And James Scott can do that. Again, I liked what I saw on tape once he would get the ball in his hands with his ability just to move past people, run past people, use that frame to bounce off first contact, and did a nice job of running by guys in the passing game too. I mean, instances where it was clearly man coverage and the corner would try to be physical with him at the line of scrimmage. That's not going to work. He just runs right past him, makes a play. I like this addition by TCU. Vertical passing game. They got it back to a certain extent last year with Jack Besh. It was sorely missing 2 years ago when Chandler Morris and Josh Hoover were trading reps, or I guess, half the season was Chandler and then he got injured. Half the season was Josh. They got back to it last year with Jack Besh. Eric McAllister and Jordan Dwyer are going to be the guys that step into that role this year. But you need that constant big play ability. I like that in the Kendall Browse offense, they're creative in the screen game. They do a nice job getting the ball to their playmakers in space, allowing them to pick up easy yards, sort of supplement the run game. But you have to have somebody who can take the top off the defense. James Scott fits that bill, and it's not only his speed and his athleticism, but again, even if he's covered, he's not always covered because he just towers over these corners to the point where he can go up and make a play on the ball, and there's really nothing they can do. And having that red zone presence will be a good thing as well. Speaking of red zone presence, another commit from this weekend at the tight end position, Braden Bach from Argyle High School. He actually announced his commitment on Dave Campbell's Texas Football live stream at his show. It was his top three were TCU, Kansas State, and Kansas, which I like that already because Kansas State is a school and Chris Kleiman's a coach that knows how to evaluate tight ends, knows how to make them into playmakers. In Kansas, probably in a more underrated way, Lance Leipold's done a really good job with that position through the years, especially at KU, in finding guys that can make plays and lining them up in different ways, moving them around the formation. So he also does a really good job of evaluating that position. TCU lands him, though, Braden Bach from Argyle. Argyle frequently at AT&T Stadium, one of the top programs in the country in their in the state in their classification. The first thing that jumps out with Bach, he is a physical tight end. He is not afraid to mix it up and block people. 6'5", 235. And you would expect a guy from Argyle. They're known to run the ball. They're known to have guys that are willing to use, that size and that ability to drop people out of the frame. But they moved him around the formation a lot. Honestly, most of the time he was in kind of an offset look where he basically was lined up like an H-back. And they used him as a lead blocker in the run game. And he would just get to the second level and latch onto a linebacker or safety and drive his feet and drop people on his head. I mean, he really did look like an offensive lineman. Last season, TCU did not have a physical presence at the tight end position. Drake Dabney did not bring that to the table. DJ Rogers will get that opportunity this year. I think Chase Curtis coming back from injury is an important part to that. And I just think in general, this roster right now needs more guys that are willing to just fight in the trenches at the line of scrimmage. They've got a few, and I think the defensive line and the offensive line are going to be improved this year, but you can never have enough of that. And I just like the mentality that I saw from Braden Bach when he was asked to come in and block, whether it was on the line of scrimmage or as an H-back in a lead blocking situation. He did a really good job of opening up lanes for the run game, finishing blocks. It just looked like he took it personally. It was not, sometimes you get tight ends that all they want to do is catch the ball. Obviously, like that's the fun thing to do, right? You want to score touchdowns, you want to make plays in the passing game. This is a dude that seems to enjoy the physical nature of that position, which is something that TCU needs right now. I think Chase Curtis is going to bring that back to a certain extent. And I don't know if Braden's going to play immediately, but you need a mix of, yes, you want athletic dudes who can go make plays. Rogers fits that bill. Kamorian Pimpton, who TCU went and got in the transfer portal from LSU this offseason, he also is one of those guys. But you need players that can get in there and are just willing to block. And whether it's in pass protection at times and the run game, can bring that physicality to the table. With that being said, don't get me wrong. This is also a guy that can catch the ball. He looks very comfortable catching the ball past the line of scrimmage. Argyle did a nice job of scheming him up some situations where he, kind of slips, like he's acting like he's going to engage in a block and he just slips down the seam. A lot of short passes, some out routes, some drag routes, move him across the formation, throw a little, screen pass essentially to him on a bootleg and let him get to the field and make plays. He did that well. He's not rated, like he's a 3-star recruit. So is James Scott. Braden doesn't have a super high rating on 247 Sports, but I don't really understand why. Like I watched the tape and he just looks like a football player to me. Maybe it's the size and he runs a 4.8 40, but at the tight end position, according to Huddle, at least the tight end position, that's not like, you want somebody who's athletic, but it's not like he's slow-footed, right? And the other thing I liked about watching him play, really good in the red zone at catching the ball, getting up the field, and scoring touchdowns. So you got two guys now that you have committed for 2026 with James Scott, with Braden Bach, who understand how to use their size and frame to score. Scott's going to do it on the outside with those goal line fades, with those 1-for-1. Hey, we're going to throw the ball up. You can make a play. Bach's going to do it in a different way. But he was really good at catching the ball, maneuvering around, finding space, and getting in the end zone. So that was good to see. The biggest thing for me, though, with this commitment, I just like the physicality that he brings to the table. It looks like he really enjoys that aspect of playing tight end. And again, you got to have a balance. You need guys who can catch the ball and be sort of like your Antonio Gates, Jason Witten. I mean, for, I guess, a TCU example, like Jared Wiley, right? A few years back, like Jared Wiley was great at catching the ball, moving the chain, scoring touchdowns. He also was willing to get in there and block. And Braden Bach looks like that dude. Excited to see what the plan is for him when he reaches campus. We have more. A running back commit who ran for over 800 yards and had 1,100 total yards last season. That's next year in Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. FanDuel is where the game starts. I've been telling you all about the NBA Finals, and you might say to yourself, Steven, the finals are over. OKC 1-7. Congratulations, all the Thunder fans out there. Kenrich Williams, NBA champion. We'll talk about that later on in the show. Have no fear, though. FanDuel's still got plenty of great deals going on. Summer sports are in full swing. Major League Baseball, man. The Rangers, I don't know. It feels like they're about to turn a corner, but then they don't. We'll see. They did take 2 out of 3 from the Pirates, but lost that game yesterday. New customers, listen to this deal. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Just open up the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. They have daily promotions, so there's always things going on in FanDuel. But I've told you about this during the offseason. There's also futures bets for football. College football in the NFL, right now, 6.5 wins, the over-under for TCU. It's going to be over. It better be over, right? We'll see how it plays out over the next few weeks and months, but I believe it's going to be the over. Go to FanDuel.com. You can place a bet there. Low risk. It's in the future. You don't have to worry about it now. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. But if you want to do daily betting, you can do that. Major League Baseball games on every night of the week. $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. That's at FanDuel.com, or if you download the FanDuel app. FanDuel is where the game starts. The recruiting hot streak continues. TCU also landed over the weekend. Giavari Graham. Hope I got that first name right. I saw on Twitter that most people call him G, but I wanted to make sure I got his full name out there if I could. He's a running back from Harlan High School in San Antonio. Super productive player. Coming off a junior season where he had over 800 yards rushing and also a little over 300 yards receiving, and split time between multiple backs. I think his senior year, he'll be in more of a feature role, so we'll get to see kind of the full aspect of who he is as a running back. But the big thing with Giavari, from watching him, I talked about at the beginning of the show, they landed 3 explosive players. I really mean that. Now, James Scott and Braden Bach, those are guys that are going to use their size mainly to make plays. And James will do it in the vertical passing game. Bach is a dude that's hard to bring down once he gets the ball in space. Graham is fast. Like, when I talk about speed, this is a dude that can run. He runs the 4x1 relay in the 100 meters and track for Harlan at the 6A level. When he runs past people, like, there are a lot of clips on this highlight tape where it looks like somebody has the angle and they're kind of step for step with them, and then he just takes off and leaves everybody in the dust. They use him in the screen game a lot, and those, like, the bubble routes, just get it out to him in space. It's pretty obvious watching him play. They have a clear plan for how they wanted to use him. Get him the ball however you can. He also was involved in special teams, but let him use that speed in the open field to go make plays. So the reason that I love this is TCU is going to find a way to make him a weapon, right? There have been so many guys that have come through the years at TCU that have fit this mold, and Graham is bigger than some of the players I'm going to talk about. But Darius Davis, right? Kevontae Turpin, just Swiss Army knife type of players. Now, Graham is doing all this from the running back position, so he's not lining up on the outside or in the slot a whole lot, but he does look comfortable catching the ball in the backfield and being able to make plays. I think this is the perfect comp. Like if I was going to evaluate him at the moment, from what I've seen, this is the perfect change of pace type of back. Another weapon in your arsenal when you're talking about your offense and how you want it to run. However, there's potential. As I said, he was splitting time with multiple backs. So this year, being in more of a feature role, there's potential to see, okay, maybe this guy can carry the ball 15 to 20 times a game. I'm not ruling that out. It's not that he can't do that. It's just he hasn't done that so far in his high school career. Harlan's found an effective way to use him by getting him in touches out of the backfield. And I mean, pretty much all these designed runs, it's get to the edge. And if I can get to the sideline, I'm running by everybody. This is game-changing speed we're talking about with Graham. And I really like the addition to the running back room. Nice job by Jimmy Scott, the running backs coach here at TCU. Offer list: San Diego State, New Mexico, Texas State, UTEP. I expect that offer list to increase this fall because I think he's going to get more opportunities and show who he is as a player beyond what he can do, just catching the ball in the backfield and making plays that way. But the bottom line is game-changing speed and an ability to go make plays. I really like this pickup for TCU in the running back room. So if you've been following the show the last 2 weeks, you might say to yourself, man, there's been a huge uptick in commitments. And there has been. And part of it's just the calendar. This is the time of year. We saw it last year. TCU did most of their work landing commits in June and July. And then once the season started, it wasn't as active. But I think that was a plan on their part. They wanted the season to be the season, right? And they wanted it to have its time. Another part of this, though, in my mind, because there was radio silence for months. And part of that was the recruiting calendar, but also even in the first few official visits they did in late May and early June, you didn't see a lot coming from it. The house settlement has totally ramped up and kicked this thing into gear because now TCU has a clear picture of, okay, we know what the salary cap is going to be this upcoming season. We have an idea of how this is going to work. So we can start making real offers. We can start getting into the concrete details of this is what we can do for you. This is how we can approach it because we know what the parameters are. We know what the rules are now. They've been kind of flying blind the last 6 months or so, hoping and anticipating and planning on the settlement being reached and revenue sharing becoming a thing. So what does that mean? Instead of everybody getting paid out of NIL still exists, but instead of everybody going through these third-party collectives, there are now schools can pay them directly, right? So like revenue sharing is happening. You're going to get more contracts, a clearer vision of what everybody can do. And so that's empowered TCU to go make this happen. Sonny Dykes said in a recent press conference that he really feels like their class is going to come together over the next 2 to 3 weeks. So they've had this in mind. They went and got Vincent Johnson, the tackle out of Sulphur Springs. They went and get Jason. They went and got Jason Bradford, the corner from Temple. Those are 2 4-star talents, like blue chip type of guys that they had on the radar for a long time. Then they land these 3 players who I think will get ratings bumps and will see better offer list as the year goes on. I also just think, especially in Braden Bach's case, like he's getting evaluated by 2 programs that really understand how to use the tight end position and know how to evaluate it. So that is confirmation enough that they're on the right track. But having the house settlement figured out is allowing TCU to really make some things happen in the recruiting world. And I don't think it was because the staff was sitting on their hands, the drought. I mean, I don't believe it was because they didn't have, momentum. I just honestly now I feel pretty confident in saying that it was, hey, we wanted to see what this was going to look like moving forward before we started really talking about the nuts and bolts of how can we compensate players in the coming years. So some really good momentum around recruiting right now. When we come back, a former Frog wins an NBA title. We'll talk about that next here in Lockdown Horned Frogs, your team every day. Kenrich Williams did not score last night, but he played 5 minutes for the Oklahoma City Thunder in Game 7. He also got some minutes in Game 5 and 6, and he dribbled out the ball. He was the one that dribbled out the clock and held it in his hand when the Oklahoma City Thunder won the title on Sunday night. Former TCU Horned Frog wins it all. I read a story in the Oklahoman this week about his presence in the locker room. Everybody loves him. He's a veteran there. He's been there for a while. He did some nice things in New Orleans, was undrafted, landed with the Pelicans, did some good things there, ends up getting traded to the Thunder, and just found a spot in that organization. First, as a dude who's really contributing on the court on a day-to-day basis, but as they were going through their rebuild, he became a steady presence and someone that people just look to as a leader on that team. I remember a long time ago, this was when TCU basketball was playing in the Wilk at Wilkerson Grayness, and they were playing Texas, and I was there covering the game as a student reporter. They lost. It was ugly. Trent Johnson was in his post-game presser, and he mentioned that, Kenrich had a good game. Pretty much everybody else had struggled, but that was early in his career at TCU, and he was, at the time, one of the few guys on that roster that could compete at that level. And I asked Trent, I was like, what did you like about his game? And he went on for minutes about how much he just loved him as a player. And Kenrich is just one of those dudes, like when you watch him, it's not always going to show up in the stat sheet, but good things happen when he's on the floor. I don't know if he ended up being the leader in plus minus. I know through the first 6 games, he was the leader in plus minus when he was on the floor. Thunder had a huge advantage. He just does positive things. He makes good decisions. He, again, is a leader on that team. He understands how to play. He hustles. He got that nickname from Billy Wessels, who used to cover TCU Athletics Purple Menace, call him Kenny Hustle. And it is the perfect moniker for him because he rebounds, he gets loose balls, he makes plays, and he's also a good shooter and has turned himself into a really good NBA player. But it was just awesome to see a dude that went undrafted, that had a great college career and found a niche, found a role, and has just stayed with it, done everything right, put his head down, done the work, and now reaps the reward of getting a championship ring and winning a Larry O'Brien trophy. So congratulations to him and to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Before we go, I did want to share one of the YouTube comments from Friday's show. I talked about Sonny Dykes and how I think he's a good leader for this era of college football with his laid-back personality. This YouTube user says, maybe I'm living in the past, but he coached a team that shouldn't have been in the national championship game to the national championship game. They got smoked when they got there, but they went through a gauntlet to get there. I believe in his ability to be a high-level coach. Yeah, I don't know what I said to make you think I disagree with that. I mean, I feel like there are areas where Sonny is not as strong as some other coaches. I think from an X's and O's perspective, from like a game planning perspective, that's not his strength. But that's okay. I feel like you can win without being great at everything. I said on Friday, I feel like the area where he excels is he builds a really good culture and he empowers his players and coaches to go do their jobs at a high level. And I think in this new world that we're living in with college football and players getting paid and the transfer portal and everything going on, that's a very valuable thing because you want guys to feel like they have input, to feel at home. I mean, that's maybe the biggest priority now moving forward is that players feel comfortable where they're at because they can always just get up and bounce and leave and go to the next destination or go to the next place. But Sonny does a great job of making this feel like home for those guys. All that being said, I think this is a big year coming up. Like, I just believe for the program, for Sonny, they need to prove that there's some consistency here. They won 8 games last year, which was a good start. Now build on that. Play for a Big 12 championship in Arlington. That would be a huge step in the right direction. And he did do great in year one. Now I feel like we're seeing the team being built in his image. And this is probably the first season where everything's kind of come together the way he wants it. So what does a Sonny Dykes team look like? What is their identity? I think we'll get a better picture of that moving forward. We'll be back on Wednesday. It's Locked on Horned Frogs, your team every day. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're also free and available wherever you get your podcast.